Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Are our mics live? I think they are. Welcome, everybody, to the Liberty Smart Security Got Your Back live stream. If you want to protect your home, your family, belongings, Liberty is the choice. They are the #1 reviewed and referred company in Canada, and they are a local business. Their services range from residential to large industrial, municipal, and healthcare facilities, and they can do it all using the latest technology. I have protected my family with Liberty Security for over 6 years now. It's a great product, and they have great customer service. Oh, and welcome, folks, to the live stream. Ryan Rashog here, coming to you live from the Sheraton Eau Claire in Calgary. I've got Chris Sabunia working behind the scenes, setting up this live stream. Chris, if you can hear me, I'm hearing myself back really loud in my ear, so I'm not sure if there's something you can do to sort that out. Maybe mute your mic or something like that. But appreciate it. Well, folks, we're fired up. We're ready to go. It's the Battle of Alberta. How long have people been waiting for this? Well, 31 years, I guess, is the answer to that. Listen, it's going to be really exciting. You know, there's a lot of buildup in both cities. I've spent time in both cities over the last couple of days, and everywhere I go, man, people just want to talk about this series. People just want to talk about what's about to start here, and I certainly understand why. I think what we're going to do, Chris, we're going to chat with Pierre Lebrun, setting up tonight's matchup. And while we get some of our technical stuff sorted out, we'll go to that conversation with Pierre Lebrun before we get to our player sound from today, because we were down at the rink earlier on. We had a chance to chat to lots of players, talked to Connor McDavid, talked Matthew Tkachuk, talked to Johnny Gaudreau did as well as both head coaches. And what I can tell you from there is that there wasn't much injury information. We kind of don't really expect it at this time of year. We know they're not going to give us much, and that was definitely the way that this went today. Ken Holland did say on the radio the other day that all the Oilers players will be available and will likely play. We fully expect Leon Draisaitl to be in the lineup tonight. Really, it's about his percentage. You know, how good is he? How healthy is he? Is he going to be able to play center and drive a line? Does he have to shift to the wing? I expect the Oilers to be in the 11-7 formation tonight, and I think Draisaitl's health has something to do with that. As for the Calgary Flames, they've got some blue liners that are a little bit banged up. Oliver Shillington has been on the ice, but looked like it was a shoulder injury for him. Tanev has been a question mark at times. Zadorov took a bad bump late in their series against Dallas as well. But again, Daryl Sutter just didn't really want to discuss injuries. I think it's safe to say it would take a lot for any of these players not to be playing in Game 1 of the Battle of Alberta. So Pierre Lebrun has been assigned to this series by both The Athletic and by TSN. We're hoping he'll be able to be a regular here on our podcasts and on our Liberty Smart Security live streams. By the way, I want to remind you, if you use the promo code Oilers97 and you call 1-866-926-7233 to Liberty, they will give you 4 free months of monitoring on your security system. So definitely encourage you to do that. But to tee up tonight's game, we're going to check in with Pierre Lebrun, and our tee up is brought to you by The Quarry. 27 holes of pure golfing awesomeness in Edmonton. It's such a great course. It's challenging for those who want to test themselves. There's lots of different tee box options, though, for golfers of all different varieties and all different skill levels. It's a great track that works for everybody. They've got fantastic practice facilities as well. So we thank them for their sponsorship, and they're going to help us tee up tonight's game, courtesy of The Quarry. So I had a chance, kind of awkwardly, right behind us, to sit and chat with Pierre Lebrun. It felt odd inviting him to my hotel room to do this, but hey, buddy, we're on location, so you do what you have to do. Presenting Pierre Lebrun, setting up Game 1 of the Battle of Alberta for The Quarry. Well, Pierre, welcome to my hotel room. Is this weird for you?
Well, we're in the business side of it, right? You got your desk there. I noticed you had a couple of coffees this morning from the Keurig there.
It would feel more weird if we could see the bed. We can't see the bed because the doors are closed and it is 2 separate rooms. So it does feel like we're in more of a business environment than you just hanging out in my room.
Yeah, and this is life on the road, man. Yeah. It's nice for everyone to see what it's like.
I have to say, for a guy that spent most of your life out on the other side of the country, you have had a little giddy up in your step. Like when you called me and said you were going to be on this series, you were some kind of fired up.
Yeah, I was, and I'll tell you right now, I know that a lot of people listening right now are like, "Wow, that's because the Leafs lost." I told you that I wanted to come out
Yes.
for Alberta, even if the Leafs had
You
advanced.
did say that when the Leafs were still in.
Yeah.
You did.
I just listen. I've been able to do a lot of things in my career. The Battle Alberta playoff series is not one of them for obvious reasons. I started in 1995 covering hockey. The
Right.
last one was 1991, so that was always a work bucket list item in my career. Was that if the Oilers and Flames ever met up, I was going to try and move everything around in my work life to be able to come and cover it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be something. We've seen kind of both sides of the Battle of Alberta this year. We've seen the tight games, we've seen the blowout games.
Mhm.
Everybody says, "Oh, we want to keep it locked down and play good defensive hockey." But the weaponry that's available in this series, like, which way do you think it'll go? Will we see the defensive conscience, or will we see the skill guys letting it ride?
I think we're going to see a lot of 3-2 games, so almost a hybrid of what you're wondering there, Ryan. In my opinion, I mean, you know these teams better than me, but I think what happens is you got Daryl Sutter hockey, you got Jay Woodcroft. Since he took over on February 10th, the Oilers have really locked things down, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't put too much stock into a lot of the regular season games for these two teams, because I think these two teams have the evolution of their game has really changed from month to month, which Daryl Sutter himself kind of talked about, interestingly, when he talked about how back in September, people didn't have the Flames high up in the standings. And in December, everyone thought the Oilers were in trouble. These teams have come a long way from what people saw them as over the course of the last 12 months. I think being responsible defensively has brought these two teams to the second round of the NHL playoffs. On top, yeah, they have the weaponry, but being able to close out a game and to be responsible, I think, has really changed the Oilers' game under Woodcroft. But certainly it's a staple of Daryl Sutter hockey for Calgary.
Yeah. I mean, the Oilers have learned to tighten it up. I think the one thing they absolutely have to get sorted out in this series, Pierre, is figuring out how to start games on time. Like the Calgary Flames were the best team in the league this year at getting out of the gate and getting that first goal. They're just, it's just part of who they are and the way they operate. Daryl Sutter talked about that a little bit today. The Oilers have struggled with that, and meeting those moments. This is a moment. I know it's only game one and you can say there's lots of series, but the way you start against a team that starts well, it's an opportunity and a moment for these Oilers.
I think from an Oilers perspective, game one is huge tonight. And I know people roll their eyes maybe at how corny that sounds in a 7-game series or potentially a 7-game series. The Oilers, to me, have a bit more to prove than Calgary out of the gates. Okay?
Yeah.
Most people are picking Calgary. Leon Draisaitl was hobbling. The Oilers needed 7 games to get through, and I'm not saying this is accurate, but to get through what was perceived to be an inferior opponent, certainly. But then you can make the argument Calgary-Dallas. I think Edmonton setting the tempo in game one is huge for them, in my opinion. They're on the road, and everyone perceives them to have the losing the goaltending matchup in this series. There's a lot of things that could happen for the Oilers mentally, I think, if Mike Smith comes out and has a gem and the Oilers jump out to a 1-0 series lead here.
You spent some time talking to league executives and coaches. You kind of do this informal poll where you don't name names to get a sense for how people around the league view this series. It was your article for The Athletic. Pretty one-sided. 12-0 were the results.
Don't shoot the messenger. It's important to note that the executives and the coaches that took part in it don't know what the other people are voting either.
Yeah.
They're all texting me back on their own will, and they have no idea what's going on. 12-0 is what it was. 7 executives and 5 coaches all picked Calgary, and for varying reasons. The goaltending matchup was mentioned a lot. Coaching, like a lot of people pointed to veteran Daryl Sutter versus rookie Jay Woodcroft, and Draisaitl's health was mentioned a bunch of times too. That maybe some people could see the Oilers, but then they were worried about Leon Draisaitl. So I see all those points. I'm surprised it was 12-0 for a couple of reasons. The best player in the world just put his team on his back to end the last round.
Yeah,
and to me, that should have been enough for at least a couple of guys to say, I think he can do that here too. And by the way, I think he can do that here.
You've done these before. Is it your experience when you poll these executives and coaches, do they often go out on a limb? Do people often pick upsets, or do you get fairly safe choices from them? do you think?
Yeah, I usually get the odds-on choices. That's probably true, and that's their DNA because their livelihood are based on making choices that the odds are with you on, right? So I guess from that perspective, I don't get a lot of upset picks. But again, I guess my point is I don't perceive the gap between Calgary and Edmonton to be that big.
Yeah.
Now again, if you pressed me, I'd probably say Calgary in 7. But if you told me the Oilers will end up winning this series, I don't think that's like that wouldn't be like Montreal beating Toronto last year. That was a lopsided series on paper, every single indicator. But Carey Price put up a wall, and the Leafs succumb under the pressure of the moment. If the Oilers win this series, there should be a person alive that is shocked.
Yeah,
like I think these teams are pretty close. I just think the Flames are a bit deeper. And certainly in the first round, they showed that playoff style grinding game, very consistent against Dallas.
You talk about if it goes 7 games. I'll challenge you a little bit because I think the Flames are either going to win this thing in 5 or the Oilers are going to win it in 7. And if you go to a game 7, let's say tonight's game 7, you're betting against McDavid tonight?
Exactly. No, I agree with you.
So how do you go Flames in 7? Like you get to that moment. I think Connor McDavid wins that moment again.
Oh yeah, and you might be right. I mean, I guess again, I'm just looking at the bigger matchups, picture, the numbers, bigger picture, and Calgary would have home ice for what it's worth. I think we're going to see a lot of Oilers sweaters in the crowd tonight.
Yeah, they travel well, Oilers fans.
Judging from the people around the hotel,
we had some nice conversations today with some Oilers fans.
Yeah, no. And again, if it goes 7, you can make the argument that the Oilers' belief in themselves probably would have grown.
Yeah,
to have done that, right?
Yeah, I think so. I talked to Duncan Keith today, and he believes that the belief in the group has definitely gone up. They've learned some tough lessons this year. Remember this about the Oilers: like the Flames were reasonably steady. The Oilers came out of the gate gangbusters, and then they absolutely hit the ditch, and their playoffs and their season and everything was in jeopardy. Coaching change, and then they shot back up and were one of the best teams in the league. They've experienced kind of both sides of it, but they have been. Their high-end game has been right there for them over the last month or so, and I think that is really going to serve them well in this series.
And I think, you could argue that both the Flames and the Oilers were fighting some playoff demons in a way. Like the core has been together a long time in Calgary, and they had to overcome what Dallas was throwing at them. But I would argue there was greater pressure on the Oilers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like when the Kings won game 1, I remember talking to you. I was like,
oh, yeah.
I mean, you could feel it in and around the organization. Like, because at that point, I think that gave them 7 straight playoff losses going back to 2020. So for me, and then, of course, the Kings going up 3-2 in the series. I wasn't around then, but certainly from afar, my sense was, here we go again. Like, how's Edmonton going to react to this?
Yeah.
And for them to have overcome that, I think it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Like I think it parked a certain amount of baggage for them as a group that even if they lose to Calgary, you're not going to say it's because of this. I think they parked a lot of baggage with the way they won that series.
I would definitely agree with that. The coaching matchup is interesting, as some of the people you talked to alluded to. Definitely experience-wise, it's pretty tilted. I actually think Jay Woodcroft, like the players determine a series, right? We know that. The players are on the ice. They're the ones that determine a series. I think there are opportunities for the coach to move the dial in certain situations. And I do think Jay Woodcroft found a way to move the dial in a meaningful way when it mattered most in games 6 and game 7. His deployment of McDavid, the way he used him as an extra forward, 11 and 7, loading up his ice time. He started double shifting him through the second line instead of the fourth line. Before, he was double shifting him through like Cassian and Puljujärvi.
Right.
He instead double shifted him
everywhere,
through Hyman
basically.
and Kane, everywhere, but really it was through Hyman and Kane.
Right.
He moved the dial with some decisions he made, and we're seeing him kind of learn on the fly here. I fully believe he would have done a deep dive and would know his opponent. I mean, Jay Woodcroft, what he lacks in experience, he tries to make up for in preparation. The guy is detail oriented.
Yeah, I'm impressed in the times I've been around him here, and I asked him this morning about what he learned about himself in the first round, because it is what it is. He had never been a head coach in a playoff series before. And he mentioned I think, while still sounding very humble about it, he said, he had more than 1,000 games under his belt with other head coaches in the NHL before this opportunity. Like, he was in Detroit, he was in San Jose, he was in Edmonton before. Like, especially in Detroit and San Jose, there's a lot of playoff games there that he was part of the staff for. And I know it's different when you're making the final call, It's different when you're every day talking to the media and all these other things. But I think what he was saying is he's been there and done that in another way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And he would have been paying attention in the detailed oriented way that he operates and goes about his business otherwise. I'm looking forward to it, buddy. This is going to be fun.
I mean, I think this is a series of the year. I really do. Like, I hope we're not building it up too much, but I don't think there's anything that's going to rival the emotion and what this means provincially here in Alberta. And frankly, the quality of the top end players in each team going at it, like it's going to be really good.
All right, good stuff. You going to get a workout in before the game, or what do you got going on?
I am. I know everyone watching is going to be shocked by that, but a little treadmill action.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, well, we'll see you for a pregame meal and look forward to it tonight. Thanks, pal.
Right on.
Okay. All right, great stuff as always. Thank you to our good friend Pierre Lebrun, TSN insider, and of course, lead hockey writer for The Athletic. We continue to preview Game 1 of the Battle of Alberta here tonight on the Liberty Smart Security live stream. It was interesting, Pierre's article in The Athletic where he talked to the 12 different people, and all 12 were predicting that the Calgary Flames were going to win this series. And Daryl Sutter was asked a question today about his team being the favorites because, let's be fair. They are the favorites, right? They finished higher in the standings. As we talked about in that chat with Pierre, probably more depth throughout their lineup. Lots of reasons why. The edge in net, I think, is fair to say as well. Of course, the Oilers have the edge on the really high end of the lineup, but the Calgary Flames, for a number of reasons, would be considered the favorites in this. But we're going to get to our Average Joe's sound box here. And by the way, if you're looking for a place to watch the game tonight out in Edmonton, definitely check out Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. It's right next to Home Depot. It's a great spot. Big TVs, great food, good atmosphere. Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. It's been rocking on game nights so far in the playoffs, and might as well keep it going through the Battle of Alberta. But again, back to Daryl Sutter. He was asked the question today. I think it was Eric Francis asked him about the idea that the Flames might be the favorites, and kind of interesting Sutter's answer, how he feels about the whole idea of favorites and underdogs. Take a listen.
Do you think you're the underdog in this series?
Yeah, you know what? I love that underdog stuff. Yeah, we're the underdog. Edmonton's saying they're the underdog. I love that stuff, right? So I love it. I think the best part is that you talk about the underdogs, and well, quite honest, in July and August and September, it was, the Flames were like 6th or 7th in their division, and then in December and January, that's what everybody was saying about Edmonton, and now they're both in the second round. So it just tells you that the white noise and the bullshit is just that.
Daryl Sutter in fine form on day number 1. When Pierre asked Connor McDavid a question today about the idea that lots of people are picking the Calgary Flames, McDavid actually sounded a little bit surprised that, I don't know if he'd processed the idea that the Oilers are as much underdogs as a lot of prognosticators have them at heading into this series. So he had an interesting comment about that today as well. The other thing Connor was asked about was what kind of series this was going to be. Like the Flames and Oilers have kind of played it both ways this year. They've had the tight games. A couple of games ago, I think it was a 1 or 2 goal game. And then the last game of the year that they had to play against each other, it was just an absolute barn burner. Like, it was a track meet. There were 14 goals scored. The Calgary Flames, I think they had 9 even strength goals in that game, if I remember correctly. It was just a punch square in the face for the Edmonton Oilers that night, giving up that much at even strength against their provincial rivals, knowing that maybe they were going to have to face them in the playoffs. And here we are. So as you reflect back on that game, what did it mean? Was it a moment for the Oilers where they realized just how much they had to dial their game in? Because to that point, I think they'd felt quite a bit of pride about the two-way game they were able to put out there. Well, Calgary brought them back down to earth real fast. We'll go back to the Average Joe soundbox here and listen to Connor McDavid talk about his expectation and just how wide open or shut down it'll end up being.
You've seen both sides when we've played each other in the regular season. We've seen low scoring, tight checking games, and obviously last time we were in here it was a 9-5 gong show pretty much. So obviously we we want to be a checking team, and obviously that's the brand that they want to play as well. So kind of depends. I mean, I think you'll see low-scoring nights, and maybe some nights there's a couple more goals, but I would expect it to be a pretty tight checking series.
I kind of hope not. Let's have a track meet. I mean, you got some of the best offensive players on the planet playing in this series. Johnny Gaudreau, I mean, he was the only one that trailed Connor McDavid during the regular season this year. You kind of want these guys to let it hang out there a little bit. A track meet would be fun for us, more stressful for the coaches, and more stressful for the players. Let's go to the Average Joe's mentions. Put a call out on Twitter to see if anybody had any questions about tonight's game. Michael Bruni shot us a note and said, Archibald has been pretty divisive among analytics and eye test people. Your thoughts on his play? Thank you so much for chiming in, Michael. We'll just take a quick look at his basic stats line. 6 games that he's played. Did not play game 1 of the last series, I believe. I think it was game 1 that he missed. And he has just a single hit. I don't have his extended statistics here, so I don't know where his hit totals are, or a single assist he had. This is what I will say about Josh Archibald. I don't think the value in Josh Archibald's game at playoff time is really going to show up a lot in the core stats that are kept or necessarily the analytics at times. I think Josh Archibald has a lot of value right now, and here's why. In a series against the LA Kings, they had some young D that the Oilers wanted to try and pressure. The one thing that Josh Archibald is an expert at is dumping pucks in and finishing checks. And I know a lot of people are going to roll their eyes and be like, enough of this body checking stuff. It's about driving possession, driving shots on net, and offensive time and all of that. I get that. But in the playoffs, it is a war of attrition. And in a 7-game series, as Jay Woodcroft uses the term, you have to make an investment physically in wearing the other team down. And Josh Archibald is a player that makes that investment. He dumps pucks in and he pounds on defensemen. He is a heat-seeking missile out there. And so while some of his numbers and his ability to handle the puck at times, all those things might frustrate some Oiler fans, I think for the style of hockey that happens in the playoffs, I think Josh Archibald really is crucial for this team. I think what he brings is absolutely crucial. I think he drags other guys into that fight a little bit. Line mates, I think, tend to hit a little bit more when he goes out there and gets the forecheck going and starts hitting. So I really do believe that regardless of whatever his analytics might say at this point, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked at his analytics. I don't really feel like I need to, because the eye test to me is what matters at playoff time for the way he plays. They need what he brings. More players need to do that. So look for Zach Kassian to try and soften up those defensemen tonight. Markstrom is a goalie that plays the puck really well. So for all the talk about the other team needing to be careful where they put the puck in on Mike Smith, you watch Markstrom tonight. He's very good at breaking pucks out for his team as well. And he's really good at playing pucks too. So the Oilers are going to need those cross-ice dump-ins and those soft chips off the wall to land it in the trapezoid. And they're going to have to skate in hard, and they're going to have to pound on a blue line for Calgary that is banged up. They are hurting. Oliver Shillington has a bad shoulder. Everybody knows that. Well, I'm not saying you go out there and you be cheap about it, but when you know a player is hurting, I mean, that's where you hit a guy who's in the shoulder. So you go in and you be physical. You don't ever turn off of a check when you've got Shillington lined up. Same thing with Tanev. Now, the great equalizer is Eric Branson and Nikita Zadorov, because I watched, some of those games in the Dallas series. Those guys are absolute towers of power. Absolute towers of power. I think Zuby's trying to send me a stat here. 33 hits for Josh Archibald in his 6 games. Thanks for that, Zuby. But Zadorov and Goodbranson, they're big. They both skate fairly well. And they've kind of been playing almost like a second pairing. They played huge minutes in that series against Dallas in the late games, and they're big, they're tough. They could be a real difference maker in this series. Now, that said, if McDavid and company get out there against those guys, those are defensemen that McDavid and company, I think, can probably expose. You go back to the Average Joe's mentions, somebody by the name of Jason Strudwick, never heard of him, says, are sweatpants acceptable at the Saddle Dome, or are they too dressy? Jason, thank you for that contribution. You can wear sweatpants. You just got to make sure you have jeans on underneath them, by the way. If anybody doesn't know the inside joke there, Struddy's a guy that when he coaches hockey, when he's on the ice coaching practice, he wears jeans underneath his track pants, which is mind-blowing. I still can't wrap my head around that. One trip back to the Average Joe's sound box. What do we got left? Oh, Matthew Tkachuk, right. Talked about, like, this is the thing. If the Oilers are going to play Connor McDavid 27 minutes, it's not going to be about Backlund versus McDavid. It's going to be about a bunch of Calgary Flames and how they manage Connor McDavid out there. And today, Matthew Tkachuk was just asked about if they throw that much Connor McDavid at the Calgary Flames, how will they handle that?
Yeah, if he plays that much, he's going to be playing against everybody. So that's, he's obviously, built pretty different and can play those minutes. And it's going to take all of us to play hard against him and make him play in his zone and limit him.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Like that Gaudreau, Lindholm back or Tkachuk line, that's the way that they really generate the offense. Is they get the offensive zone time going. They move the puck extremely quickly. They're all very good with the puck, smart with the puck, and they kind of get this tilt-a-whirl going where they just zone time and zipping it around. The more shifts you can make Connor McDavid chase around in his own end and just focus on positioning and where do I need to be and thinking defense. Those are just burning McDavid shifts off the clock. So it'll be interesting to see how often that Gaudreau and Tkachuk line end up out there on the ice against Connor McDavid. I think we'll see it a fair amount. The other thing from the matchup standpoint is that Anderson and Hanifin were the ones that played the most 5-on-5 minutes against McDavid during the regular season. They actually had really good numbers against them. I had some of those numbers pulled, some of this courtesy Sport Logic. 27-23 he played versus Anderson and Hanifin. Shot attempts were 32-25 for Calgary. Scoring chances, 8-6 Calgary. Rush chances, 3-2 Calgary. And goals were 2-0 Calgary during the regular season with that D pairing out against Connor McDavid. Shillington and Tanev did pretty well also. 16-9 were the shot attempts for Calgary. Scoring chances, 8-3. Goals were 1-0. So really the Goodbranson-Zadorov pairing was 11 minutes and 45 seconds during the regular season. And Edmonton got the better of the shot attempts and such there. So on the road, I think it's going to be hard for them to get that McDavid line out there against that D pairing. Daryl Sutter will control a lot of the matchup game, but I'm not sure. I think they're going to go 11-7 tonight, and I think they're going to throw a lot of Connor McDavid at the beginning of this game. That's worked for them the last few games. But at the same time, I think if the Oilers are going to find a way to beat the Calgary Flames, they're going to need to be able to rely on lots of people throughout their roster, because the Calgary Flames, we know, are going to be able to. This is a deep, physical team. They can roll four lines. Four lines come at you in different ways. They all have their different unique skill sets. This is going to be a challenge like the Oilers haven't seen yet on their overall depth, and just rolling McDavid out 27 minutes a night in a series that's going to be as physical as this one, I don't think it's a recipe for success. So what's Jesse Puljujarvi going to give them? Is Warren Fogle going to get back in? I doubt it tonight. When he does, they need speed and they need size and guys that can finish. Zach Cassian is going to be absolutely critical. Josh Archibald, Evander Kane, Zach Hyman. These are all, bigger guys that can skate fast and hit hard if they want to. A Battle of Alberta should bring that out in all of these players. All right, that's going to wrap it up here on the live stream, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll probably drop into the podcast. I think we'll try and do one post-game tonight. Maybe have a fresh, full Got Your Back podcast ready to go tomorrow. But this live stream has been brought to you by Liberty Smart Security. I love this company. They're awesome. They've got all sorts of technology that can help you protect your house. And it's really cool. If you're not real tech savvy, you don't need to be, because their systems are really easy. But if you are tech savvy, there's lots of fun little bells and whistles on these systems. You can have cameras and you can monitor your video. You can have notifications on your phone and geo fences and all sorts of cool stuff for people who are into that. Or they can have a real basic system that just keeps you and your family safe. And then once again, use the promo code Oilers97 when you call 1-866-926-7233, and they will give you 4 free months of monitoring. All right. LeBron was going to get a workout in. I'm going to say that I'm going to go get a workout in before the game. No chance it's happening, but I'm just going to say it because I guess you never know. A little pregame meal, and then we'll have a front row seat tonight for the Battle of Alberta. For those of you getting to come to the game tonight, enjoy it. For those of you watching on TV, enjoy it. Maybe go down to Average Joe's and check it out. But either way, it's going to be fun, and we're going to have tons of fun debriefing it in the days to come. Thanks for tuning into the Liberty Smart Security live stream here, presented on Got Your Back. We will chat with you again real soon, folks. Enjoy the festivities.